So Bungie is finally addressing Gambit. It took them long enough. I am not reading through this entire thing. This is a large one. I don't really have that sort of time, but I am going to talk about a few of the points that they made for Gambit specifically, because that's what I care about. If you watched my last video, you know I love Gambit, and it has been suffering horribly. So they're breaking down their changes into 5 categories: core activity, ammo economy. I have such a hard time saying ammo economy. The amount of takes I did on that last video is atrocious. Primeval tuning, invasions, and rewards. That's a very familiar list, I would say. That is my list was bigger than that. It included map design and a few other things, but those are 5 of the key points that I tried to focus on in my video. So it's nice to see them being addressed. So for the core activity changes, they're adding a freelance node, which, amen. I had called for that for over a year now, basically. They're rotating seasonal selection of curated encounters starting in Season 16. So I hadn't even realized this, but, and I'm just going to read this word for word. In Classic Gambit / Prime, you got a randomly selected encounter from a list of 3 of each enemy race on each map. In Beyond Light, due to production issues, we were only able to bring 1 of the 3 variations forward into the new activity. Those issues have been fixed, and we are now bringing the missing variations forward. Playing with the single variation for race map for a year led us to an interesting observation. It's fun to know that Hive on Pacifica means, oh god, those Shriekers, and to learn the spawns and master them over time. Maybe not interesting for an entire year, though. We think it will be interesting to have a set rotation of spawns for a season, and over those 3 months, really master each encounter. So no more Shriekers on Pacifica for now, but they will be back later in the year. So I had this feeling that something was wrong, that something was missing, but it wasn't even clicking in my head that it was all just static, because when I went, especially when I went to capture footage, when I went into private games, all the options are still there. So it was where it hadn't even occurred to me that this isn't just really bad RNG. This is an actual problem. Now, having it set, I think that's going to be fine. Having it set per season, I think is going to be fine, because, like I said, I didn't even realize that was a thing, even with the amount of Gambit I've been playing. Next, they say respawn points are added to all fronts, and fronts are the sections of the map where enemies could cycle in or out. So in what I called the map design, the spokes, the 3 spokes where enemies spawn. This is awesome. I love this. This solves 2 or 3 of the problems I addressed in my video. Now you aren't just stagnant in where you're spawning. You're not always funneled through the same point when there's an invader. You can spawn somewhere else. It sounds like it's going to be random, probably working similar to how the invasion spawn was already decided. Like, you're probably going to spawn either at spawn or across from the current enemy front. And if there's an invader, that might mix the formula up a little bit. But as an invader, you're going to spawn in different spots. It's going to be more variable. In fact, I'm pretty sure I said word for word, quote unquote, less predictable spawn points for invaders. That's basically what they say right here. I love it. Next, players always drop half the motes they were carrying when they are defeated. This is something I did not touch on in my video. I had thought about touching on motes and dying with motes and invading with motes. Should there be benefit if you're invading while carrying motes? And I didn't really touch on it because I didn't have a cohesive thought on it. And I think this is a really good change, that you're going to drop half your motes when you die, no matter what. I really like that. And invaders can pick those up, or your teammates can pick those up. That is awesome, because that means there's more reason to work with your teammates when there's an invader and not bum rush in to try to kill the invader only to get blown up by a Gallahorn because they have their heavy, because they're going to get your motes then. So that's a good change. I like that. Players can be revived by other players 2 seconds earlier, and auto respawn is delayed 2 seconds. This I'm a little more hesitant on, though, because even with the mote drop changes, I've had a lot of times where, like, I'll do what I just said. I'll bum rush in on an invader, and I'll get rocketed. I'll kill the invader, but I'll die too. And my teammate runs over, collects the 3 invader motes, and doesn't res me, even though I'm resable. I'm hoping that this creates more incentive to res your teammates. I'm worried that it's not going to. In fire team situations where you're grouped up, absolutely. That is awesome. In blueberry situations, I'm a little more hesitant. But we have more changes. All shields have increased resistance to non-matching damage types, not as severe as match game resistance in Nightfalls. This feels like a first step into what I was saying with going for match modifiers, using strike modifiers as match modifiers in Gambit. This feels like a first step into it. I think they could have gone further, they could have done more, but this is a really good first step, I'd say. And they're also adding a Rules of Gambit node to the launch screen, and numerous Gambit-specific hints are being added to the load screen. I think that if the hints are good, if the content of that is good, that is going to be really good for newcomers, because the game mode isn't the most clear for newcomers. It's like strikes are strikes, they're strikes, they're strikes, they're strikes. It is what it is. Crucible is Crucible. You're just fighting other Guardians. Gambit is unique. It's, you know, a wave-based thing in a lot of ways. If you've played Splatoon, it's basically Salmon Run, but some rando can come snipe you in the head. So it's, you know, it's a little different. So yeah, so that I think that could be good. The next section we have is blockers, draining, and the bank. So they're saying that the 10 mote phalanx blocker is going to get a health boost by a little bit, and I kind of like that, because I don't know if this was because of Mythic Class and particle deconstruction, or just because it's actually the case, and I'm getting the feeling it's because it's actually the case, but it felt like the phalanxes really only had a tiny bit more health than the small blockers. Like, sometimes it felt actually easier to kill a phalanx if it was facing away from you than to kill a small blocker if it was slightly down a hill. Yeah, the shield gets in the way, so that is one thing. I hate the fact that if there's so much as facing you, they don't have to be in a blocking animation, nothing. That's its own problem. I do feel like they needed more health, though. So I'm kind of glad to see that. Now, the 15 mote blocker, the Knight, is gaining stasis attacks. That I don't know how to feel about. On one hand, I'm really excited to see this and to experience this. On the other, I am beyond concerned. But we're gonna have to see. I don't know what to think. The mote drain from multiple blockers will continue even after the opposing team is in a primeval phase. So this, I actually didn't understand this correctly at first. I read just that first line at first, and what my brain said was, wait, so if the enemy team banks 2-3 blockers, whatever, and get their primeval, you're still going to lose motes until you get down to 1 blocker? But reading deeper, it actually sounds like what it is if your enemy has a primeval and your team sends 2, 3, 4 blockers, which, by the way, if your enemy has a primeval, consider sending small blockers, because now it's even more important. Send small blockers so you can send more at once. There's enough enemies that there should still be a hard time for them to focus on them, but you're going to gain motes so long as there's 2 blockers or more. Even while your enemy has the primeval, you're going to gain motes. They're not going to lose anything technically, but you're going to gain them. I like that. That's good. That's really, that's going to be good. That's a good catch-up mechanic, because it makes it harder for those like clean sweep sort of games to happen. And in my opinion, those clean sweep games, those are no fun for either side, in my opinion. If I'm on the losing side and my team's got like 5 motes by the end of the match, that's just depressing. And if I'm on the winning team and I see the enemy only has 5 motes by the end of the match, and I see my teammate going in and being an invader and sniping them, destroying them over and over, it's like, stop rubbing salt into the wounds. That's just, it's painful for me at that point. So this is, I'm glad to see this for sure. And the mote drain is paused if a player is near the bank and engaging blockers. I don't know how to feel about this. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I do not know how to feel about this, because on the one hand, I've sat there while one of my teammates was invading, one was dead and the other was just respawning, with no ammo, stuck with my primary weapon, trying to take out, there's 2-3 knights, and I'm standing there alone with my pulse rifle or hand cannon or whatever I went in with sucking, and we lose all our motes. And that is ass. But at the same time, as an invader, I tend to rely on fear, if that makes sense. So I will make sure that there is at least one large blocker that I just put in, and somebody else is putting something in, and I can go invade, and I can create fear of, no, if you go to that bank, if you go and try to contest that, you're still going to be losing motes, and I'm going to kill you. I don't know if that's going to affect that. It might not. I really don't know. So I'm kind of on the fence about this one. It has the potential to be a really good change, is a little concerning at first read. Now we're on to the ammo economy. God, I cannot say ammo economy well. So here's some very interesting. They have, it feels like basically the opposite approach to what my suggestion was. And that's not to say that either way is bad. Mine could be bad for all I know. I don't know. I am looking forward to seeing what this is like, though. And it's going to be when completing a front. Again, the front is one of those 3 sections per map where the enemies can cycle through. So what I call the spokes. A chest containing a small amount of special and heavy ammo spawns in the middle of the front and can be looted once by each player. Good. So that is good, because special was a problem, needed to be more. And I did say that heavy on the wall should be accessible to all, not just one. It times out after 20 seconds of initial interaction. So it's essentially what I was saying of taking that control approach, that crucible approach that they re-implemented, and putting it into Gambit. And I like that. Killing a high value target spawns 1 heavy brick for each player. I can get on with this. I feel like there's too much. I feel like there's going to be too much heavy for a bit. I don't know how to feel about it, you know? I say during the Primeval phase, ammo chests spawn in one of the fronts every 60 seconds, and this replaces the regular front ammo chests, but you will still need to find the time to go grab it. I'll come back to this in a few moments. They also say limited special and heavy ammo bricks to only spawn from enemies if you have finder mods equipped, and that exotic perks like Aeon Cult will still work. So I have concerns. I feel like there might be too much heavy going on now. I feel like I don't want to spawn in as an invader and have 4 Gallahorns hitting me simultaneously, which is what I'm getting afraid of by reading this. But the next section is about the Primeval Fight. And the first thing is that the Primeval Health and Slayer stack bonus is returning. And burning the boss after 3 rounds of Envoys should be just as easy as it is now. Excuse me. But burning him just 1 or 2 rounds should be significantly more work. And I absolutely agree. So I'm really happy to hear about that happening. Envoys now spawn with friends out in the front rather than in the bank area. They have reduced health and are no longer affected by Slayer stacks, and they have varied elemental shields. Good changes. Killing the Envoys to get Slayer stacks will require movement, dealing with the Envoys' protectors, and dealing with their elemental shield. Envoys put an invulnerability shield on the Primeval. Yes, thank you. Bringing that back is good. You must kill them both to remove it and damage Primeval, forcing your team to go out and invade. Now, before I go any further, I just want to say, if the Envoys are spawning out in the fronts, how often is it that the Envoy or one of the Envoys is going to spawn in the front that has the chest? Is it really going to make that hard to go get these chests when they spawn in during the Primeval phase? I am afraid that there's going to be too much ammo. That's the point I'm trying to make. Now back to this. Envoys respawn at 30% of the Primeval damage done. This increases by 10% every Envoy respawn. The Envoys stop spawning after the 5th spawn. Okay. I still like my suggestion more of making the spawns timer based, not health based, and making them just continue to stack up. But I think I can get down with this change. I think I can get down with this change. And the Primeval Servitor boss is no more meatballs. Malfeasance quest starts on the first Primeval Call. Yes! Thank you, because that boss did not meet any of the conventions of every other aspect of Gambit. So thank you. With the tuning changes above, the moats phase is significantly quicker and the Primeval phase longer. You should expect matches to be just about as long as they are now, but we will be watching to make sure they aren't too short or too long. I'm hoping that that's truly the case. I'm hoping that they do look at the statistics and see what's going on and take feedback from this. Invasions. As we said above, a good invader should be able to turn the tide of a match, but a good invader should be no more important than any other equally skilled team member. We don't want a single good invader to completely dominate match outcomes, and they can certainly do that right now. However, we still want a good invader to be able to delay a strong PvE team from finishing off the Primeval. Level advantage is now disabled for invader PvP. It has actually been like this since the start of Beyond Light. Surprise. Interesting to know. I didn't even realize it has been disabled since Beyond Light. I thought they disabled it earlier. So that's good to know. That didn't even occur to me. I thought they turned that off beforehand. One of the moat phase invasions has been removed. Invasions now trigger at 40 and 80 moat thresholds. Okay. Primeval phase invasions are unchanged. Okay. Invasions can no longer be saved up. Use it or lose it, pal. That's good. I don't know about the prior one. I'll have to experience it, but no longer stacking and saving up. That is good. I like that. Invaders no longer can see how many moats enemy players are carrying, and player nameplates fade out when the invader is aiming down their sights. You will still see players through walls, just not while you're engaging your rocket tracking or using your sniper zoom. I like that. That's good. That is a really good change. We found a bug with how the Primeval Heal effect is being applied, which, depending on the sequence and timing of kills, would heal the Primeval for somewhere between 5 and 35%. We fixed it, and now invader kills heal the Primeval for exactly 27% each time. That's really important. That consistency is really good. I would argue that a different change would have been better. I would have argued that the first kill as an invader, in a single invasion, the first kill gives X amount, the second kill gives X plus 5, the third kill gives X plus 10, and the fourth kill, if you can kill everyone, kills X plus whatever the number is, to incentivize being a good invader and getting more kills. But I understand making it just a static number across the board. Next comes rewards. Now, they're adding focusing. You can focus Gambit engrams into either Gambit armor or Gambit weapons for 10,000 glimmer and 50 legendary shards. Gambit weapons include Crowd Pleaser, Bottom Dollar, Trinary System, Borrowed Time, and Servant Leader. So it doesn't sound like anything's really changing there. We've got the same kind of iffy band of weapons. I feel like Servant Leader is the only one. Borrow Time is pretty good, but is outshadowed, I'd say. Servant Leader, at least right this moment, is the only one worth having. Brand new Gambit weapons are drop only for a single season and are then available for focusing. That is nice. I like that. We're expanding Drifter's focusing option further in upcoming seasons. That would make sense since your weapons are drop only for a single season. Other Drifter changes are Bygones, Trust, and Bad Omens have been removed from the vendor. Makes sense. If you're not going to reprise them, what is the point of having them there? And match drops, there is a Gambit Memento for weapon crafting that can drop after any match, and older Gambit shaders now have a small chance of dropping at the end of each match. Okay. We'll see how this goes. Shaders, whatever. The Memento, it could be good. That could be good, but as for weapon crafting, we don't have our hands on weapon crafting. We can't really say how that's gonna go. And then Primeval Servitor cosmetic drops can now drop. Primeval Servitor cosmetic drops can now drop at the end of any match. Oh, the Furtive Shell Ghost. Gotcha. That's it. I didn't remember that the Furtive Shell was bound to that. And yes, you can expect more rituals to get this treatment throughout the year. But we do not currently have any specific dates to share just yet. Okay. Now, the future and Gambit Labs. Gambit Labs. There are a few things eagle-eyed readers might notice are missing from the above. Don't fret, we have a timeline for future changes. The daily Gambit bounty objectives are generally fine, but some of the repeatable bounties have some onerous completion requirements. We are taking a pass on 3. They won't all come at once. Okay. I think I have an idea of what 3 those might be, but I'm not going to say anything in case I'm dead wrong. Sometime this season, we will be adjusting the completion amounts of most Gambit repeatable bounties. Weapon kills dropping from 25 to 15, etc. I didn't feel like they were necessarily that bad, but I get it. Some of them were painful. In Season 17, we will be making additional tuning changes as well as adding 3 new bounties. Throughout the year, we will also be adding bounties specific to Light 3.0 updates. Good. Keep the bounty system. This should go across the board. The bounty system should continue to grow and evolve as the game grows and evolves. If the bounty system stays stagnant and our abilities and weaponry keeps changing and evolving, there's that disconnect that we've been feeling. Gambit Labs Invasion Edition. We also have a couple of Gambit Labs that play with some core invasion concepts. These will run for 1 week each and will take over the base Gambit nodes. Invasion Swap. This labs variant plays around with who gets to benefit from triggered invasions. During moat phases, instead of opening your own invasion portal at 40 and 80 moats, you instead open your opponent's invasion portals. That I like that because Gambit is a gambit. You being successful should come with the drawback. So I really like that. We expect this to completely disrupt the accepted meta for how and when to deposit and invade. We're looking forward to see the clever strategies and counter strategies you'll develop. That will completely throw the wait till the enemy banks first thing on its head. I want, like, when that comes, expect me to be playing Gambit any minute that I am not eating, drinking, sleeping, or working. Moat Thief. Fundamentally, the original concept of the invader was Guardian as taken terror, overpowered and dangerous, something new to have to fight. While that is very compelling, we don't believe it is the only compelling invader fantasy. We believe the sneaky Moat Thief is worth exploring too. Maybe there are more. Normal moat drain from having 2 blockers is disabled, and instead every second the invader is invading, 1 moat drains directly from your bank into the invader's bank. I like that because that's playing with the Gambit Prime invasion perk of stand on the bank to drain moats, but without having to be on the bank. So I really like that, and I feel like they can work with some of these ideas and implement them further into the core activity without them being overpowered or changing things too much. So I think these lab ideas is going to be absolutely amazing. The only thing I am disappointed is that I have not seen a single thing mentioned about Gambit maps. They come to mention trials. Let's see. I'm going to do a Control F for maps. Nope. For Season 16, we're moving to a schedule of 7 maps for the season, one of which you will get to decide. Expect a survey in the coming maps, but that's for Crucible, yeah. So there's returning Crucible maps. There's no comment about Gambit maps. That's my biggest disappointment out of all of this, I would say. I think there are some really, really good changes that they're announcing. Some interesting ones that I'm going to be looking forward to playing with, and I'm really looking forward to Gambit Labs. I am extremely disappointed that there's no new maps for Gambit, though, and I feel like that's going to be the biggest kicker because they're changing up what enemies are going to be on what map, but it's still the same map. How far does that really go? Sure, they're going to change it every season, but we've had these maps since Gambit released, or for 2 of them since Gambit Prime released. For the other 2 since Gambit released. How long until we get more maps finally? I really hope that there are some Gambit maps in development and that they add them in Season 17 or onward. Because otherwise I'm just... I cannot stand constantly having the same map over and over again. And until there's more maps, that's going to continue to happen. Anyway, this has been the And then they go into armor. The armor looks cool, blah, blah, blah. This has been my take on the announced Gambit changes. Yeah, excited but disappointed. That's how I would put this. Anyway, that's it for the follow-up. So have a good one. Bye.